Perfect.
Okay, we're on. We're live.
Like the pitch to the start of Point Break.
What? I haven't seen that.
Keanu Reeves, Surfers.
Oh, it's got from
Keanu Reeves in.
No, it's got Keanu Reeves and it's got.
I know the guy you're on about.
I was gonna say Christian Slater. It's not Christian Slater. It is the dude from Dirty Dancing.
Patrick
What's
Swayze.
his name? Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
He's a bad guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's a great film.
Yeah, good film.
It makes. Do you know what? I only ever heard about it from Hot Fuzz.
Really?
Yeah, because it's in Hot Fuzz, isn't it?
Is it?
You know, yeah. So you know when they stay up all night watching films.
Yeah, they turn around. Yeah. That scene, yeah, that's a good scene actually.
It's a good
Spoilers.
scene. Yeah.
You haven't seen Point Break or Hot Fuzz?
Yeah, we just ruined it for everybody.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Hot Fuzz is a great film.
It is a good film. Something Gen Zs may or may not know about.
Definitely.
Ooh.
When was Gen Z? Well, that's probably a good question. When was Gen Z brought in?
I think you have to be a certain age group for it, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the whole point. So we're going to be talking about Gen Z, the workforce, how that's a growing influence, how it's kind of changed from millennials, such as myself.
Yep.
Which is pretty cool. But there's lots of different new generations coming through, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're technically a millennial as well.
No.
No?
Gen Z.
You're Gen Z?
Yep. So Gen Z is defined by anyone born between 1997 and 2012.
Ah. So Anthony was born in 1997 as well, actually.
Really?
New lad.
Yeah. So he is just on the cusp.
He's literally, yeah, it must
Yeah.
be that same year.
Yeah.
So it's me. So for me then, isn't it like a millennial was from before 97, I'm guessing, basically. It's like
Yeah,
early
I guess it'd be
80s
96 to...
or 86, it's got to be. So I was born 86.
Yeah,
to
what was before
97.
millennial? Boomers.
Baby boomers.
Yeah, baby boomers.
Prior to that, yeah.
And that's probably probably 80s.
70s, 80s, that type of era. And then before that, I think you're just people. And it's when the head of sales was a thing.
Yep.
Yeah, and this whole internet thing will never take on. I can imagine.
Yeah.
Everything has to be done by paper.
Well, that's not even imaginable.
Not anymore.
No. Well, not for someone like me, where it's always had grown up around computers and in the workplace especially.
Yeah.
Never had any sort of paper trails or manual filing cupboards, or not that we have a lot of filing to do anyway, I guess.
Or
other
cupboards to put the filing in.
Yeah, or cupboards to put the filing in. No,
We have no cupboards.
paperless.
Practically, we were paperless up until recently, where I bought a new printer, and in day one, Ray is printing everything out.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that Ray hasn't printed. Name tags.
He is. Like, we've got this new printer. It's not even like a Fandangle one, but he loves it.
Yeah.
He's,
That's definitely a generational thing, though. Because
I think
even
so.
because sometimes I see emails and they say, "Oh, don't print this email off,"
Yeah.
and I always think like, why are you printing an email off? It's
think-
easier to have it on your phone, on your
Yeah.
laptop, on your tablet, whatever device you've got it on.
I've seen that. She's like a disclaimer at the bottom. So think twice before you
Print this
print
email.
this off.
Yeah.
That was reminding me of a song, but
I'm trying to think what song it is, but
I don't want to sing it.
let's see if people can guess it. Put it in the comments if you know
I
what
don't
song
do I know
Sam's
the
referring
Do
to.
I know the whole song though? I'll come to me. We'll get onto it. Maybe I'll just break out into song halfway through.
Definitely, because that's not going to catch anyone off guard.
So Gen Zs are born between 1997 and 2012. Is that right?
Yeah. So you think probably what's the latest that you'd have? Latest year people would have been born that would be in the workforce now. Probably.
Okay.
What's the youngest in our office? 2002. I think Alfie.
How old's Alfie?
20.
Is he 20?
Yeah, 2002. I think he's born in. When he said 2000 and then went and. I'm not much older than him. Even I went. What do you mean and?
What do you mean hands? Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird when I started. I think because you're 2000, aren't you?
99.
99.
Yeah.
Even that was weird for me. It's like 1986. That just sounds super old now. Yeah, everyone's nodding as well.
I'm trying not to nod,
Yeah.
but even just the difference between 99 and 2000
It's
just
a lot.
seems a lot. It's only a year, but probably
Yeah.
not. Well, not even that.
It sounds a lot. 1999 to 2000.
Yeah, it's like when you go in a shop and say it's 20 quid or 19.99.
You go, oh,
You go,
bargain.
it sounds cheaper.
Yeah, it is cheaper.
Yeah. But it's definitely a difference in how generations have grown up as well, though. Even going back to like school era. Like me and Ben was talking about this a few weeks ago. It's like for IT, for example, it's like we only had one computer. And I was like, what do you mean? It's like as a school, there was just one computer. That was it.
Really?
Well,
Oh,
that's
Ben
what
said that.
Ben said that. Yeah, might have
No,
been
yeah.
primary school, maybe not secondary school.
I remember primary school, and there was a lad, and his dad used to win a lot of stuff on the radio. So he'd literally listen to the radio for these guys. I swear to God, like
Is his professional?
It kind of was.
Just like a hobby?
He was into IT. And I remember it really well because he was the guy that if you wanted to win like a PlayStation or something like that, he knew all like the speed dials to like the radio stations, that kind of stuff. So he would be like on the phone trying to win whatever. And he actually won a multimedia PC for the school.
For the school?
Oh, yeah. It was all the rage. It had a CD-ROM.
I bet it was massive, wasn't it?
Access to the internet.
In my head, I'm thinking like the stuff that you have at like NASA. It's like, and it's constantly blinking. It's constantly making noises. In reality, it was just like a Dell tower.
It was an IBM.
IBM.
So it was an IBM. I don't know what version it was, but it was the only one they had in the school. But it was called a multimedia PC, which basically meant it had a CD-ROM and it had Encarta. You probably are even too young for that.
That sounds Latin.
It probably was. But it was basically an online encyclopedia. So Microsoft created Encarta where you could literally... It was almost like Google before Google was around, right?
Right.
So you had a CD-ROM, you put it in, and it come up, and you would tap in what you're looking for, and it would give you like a video, give you a description, and all the kind of stuff associated with whatever you was putting into the CD-ROM. But that was like the rage, and it was all like animated, and they had like a little game. You'd run through a castle, and you play all these different quiz
That sounds pretty cool,
games.
to be fair.
Yeah, and the idea was to get people interested in encyclopedias because they were just boring bits of paper until this come along. So to influence children and stuff get into it, there it was. And they used to have this game called Hover that was built into like Windows 95, I think it was. And it was just like this little hovercraft that you used to kind of bat around. But that was as exciting as it got for a PC at the time. And maybe Tiger Woods, PJ Golf. That was kind of
That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, the good old days. But then in saying that, I remember when my dad had Northwich Paper back in like early 90s, and we used to go up to his office, and they used to have the Amstrad computers. So they would have like a host of Amstrad computers, and they used to have, I don't know what version it was called, like they had the 3.5-inch floppy discs. And
floppy disks would be before my time.
Yeah, but they had like ones that are larger. I can't remember what the hell they're called, but you put it in, and there's a little like lever you turn to lock it.
This sounds so mental.
Right.
And I said, there's probably a lot of people going, yeah, I remember this. But in my head, it's
you had to run it on MS-DOS. So, do you know what MS-DOS is?
No. I thought it sounds like a Spanish version of MSN.
MS-DOS was just like the back end of Windows. You typed commands and stuff in, but that's the way you got into games. So, or programs. So it didn't just work. You had to literally tap in like C drive, semicolon, / CD-ROM, .exe to run the game or whatever it is you was running. I'm blowing your mind here, aren't I?
Honestly, it sounds so alien.
Yeah. So that was my kind of generational thing between like seeing technology quite primitive from the 80s perspective all the way through to today, whereas you've only really seen it from more of a digital perspective rather than like
like Windows. Windows was probably the main one, but I think IT. If it was on IT class, everyone had a computer, and they were like tower PCs, and you had your own monitor, and it was pretty up to date. But then
you had to share monitors.
No, I didn't have to share monitors, or it wasn't one where it was built in. And then certain classes had computers in the class, but I don't think they ever got used really. It was like you don't need to unless it was like art, for example.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems mental. And then even talking to like my younger brothers who are probably Gen Alpha, which is after 2012, and they're saying like every child in the class had an iPad.
Yeah.
Just in any class, even in primary school.
I'm seeing that now. So even like young kids at primary school, they're trying to influence more technology within schools, that kind of stuff, which I think is really interesting. But all the iPads and stuff, they teach you to touch. But when you're in work, when do you always sit there with an iPad? Or it's more like keyboard and mouse, isn't it? Well, we still do.
Yeah, I mean, ours a touchpad, but how often do you actually use the touchpad?
I actually use it quite a lot, to be fair.
But for typing?
Never.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, to type on the touchpad is like, you'd be there for hours. Like, by the time you just... Yeah. But it's certainly interesting how... I think there's definitely a need to adapt for the technology. But then it's that instantaneousness of it. Yes, we know the word I'm trying to say. But just it's like now. Whereas, how long would it take you to go onto the encyclopedia and find what you're looking for? Whereas, if you just go onto Google and you get 1.8 billion results in like 3 seconds.
It has changed an awful lot. Even if I think about not so much my work, I don't think in a way a lot of my working career has changed a great deal. Because believe it or not, they still had the internet when I was 20. Right.
Yeah.
So that was on the cusp of where LinkedIn just started, and lots of things were Facebook, and it was MySpace back then. That was the way, you just create like a funky page sort of thing, and you basically got judged based on the music and your actual like what your
Did you have a
profile
friends
looked
list?
like.
Top
You had a
5
friend
friends.
list, yeah, and you could
Lot
you
of drama.
basically, yeah, it did. But you used to choose your top 5 friends, who you followed, what music you listened to. It was serious, like it was a big deal. But going back before then, and you mentioned this instantaneous piece of it, I think that for me is probably one of the big differences I've definitely seen, even as a millennial, because back in the day, if you wanted to watch a video, play a game, or see something at the cinema or whatnot, you had to wait for it.
Yeah.
You literally had to wait, and there was no other way around it. It was not like, just go into this other app, or Amazon Prime's got it, or whatever. It's like, I
if
have
I do a
to
VPN,
wait.
I can watch it in a different country while I'm on holiday.
Because no one had it.
Yeah.
So, a great example I think is Blockbuster. I remember so fondly when I was like young, it was a Friday night, Dad would be like, right, let's go to Blockbuster Video and we'll go to Pizza Hut and we'll, to get a takeaway. The best automation you could get with your pizza is ringing them up physically and saying, I would like to order a pizza, please, and I'll be there in half an hour. That is basically as technically advanced as it got. But then you'd just go to Blockbuster, you'd have to walk in and you just have to hope that video wouldn't be already rented out by 5 other people.
That's what I always find mental. Like, they must only have a certain amount.
They do.
It's like, could you ring the families and I know you've got that DVD. Can you bring it back?
It wasn't even DVD.
Or video,
VHS.
sorry. VHS.
This is VHS.
Yeah, I do remember
days.
VHS because you had to wind them back after you'd watched them.
Yeah, not physically.
Yeah,
but the tape recorder did that for you. Actual cassettes though, there was a hack. Did we speak about this the other day? Who was it? Who was someone I was talking to?
I don't think it was me.
I think it was someone who was discussing, and I can see they're really looking at it. It's like the actual cassettes you put like in a CD, in a Walkman, not in a CD Walkman, and the actual phrase is like, what's the actual relationship between a cassette and a pencil? And then if you were born in like the 90s or you wouldn't have a clue, because basically back then, if your tape got jammed, all the actual magnetic wire where the music was stored would come out. So you'd get a pencil and literally screw it back in. And that's how you basically fixed your music.
Right. I feel like I'm discovering fire for the first time. It's just mental. Like, even now, where you got for example, you go to Spotify.
Yeah.
You go, I want to listen to whatever song in the world I
you
want.
couldn't do that.
Yeah, but imagine if halfway through you was listening to Spotify, you had to just put your phone battery back in. That's kind of what it's like.
Well, the closest you could get back in when the internet was a thing, when it started, and the fastest speed you can get was like 512 kilobytes, and that was like super quick, and all your mates would come around and go, oh my god, you got like super fast internet. Was some questionable platforms to download these maybe or maybe not illegal music.
Music streaming.
No names are going to be mentioned on this podcast.
Pirate radio sort of stuff.
Well, it wasn't even pirate radio. It was literally just like platforms like they used to have like Mozilla, LimeWire, BearShare, all the Winamax.
I've heard people used to go onto YouTube and find what song they wanted, then convert it, and then download it that way.
You're far ahead. This is before then.
Before then?
This is before then, Robbie. Honestly.
How far ahead am I?
See?
How many years ahead am I, roughly?
I reckon you're a good 3 or 4 years ahead.
Oh,
easily.
wow.
Yeah. So before then, you basically had just MP3s, and you could either go to like Napster and pay for it, which most people did because that's the right thing to do, or if you didn't have enough money or you had a capability, and I've heard some people would go onto these platforms and wait for hours to download one song. Right?
Hours for one song?
Torrents. Yeah, well, that's even later on as well, because there were... So that was the way it used to be. So like one song was like 3 megabytes or whatever, but if your broadband at that time was like 52 kilobytes or whatever, it would genuinely take you 2 hours for one song.
Is this dial-up or are we beyond dial-up?
It was dial-up.
Yeah.
So it was dial-up.
And also, with dial-up, I've heard that if someone picks up the phone, the internet cuts off.
Yeah.
So you could spend like 3 hours downloading a song. You get to 2 hours, 58 minutes, mum picks up the phone, and then it's just gone.
You were really rich if your family could get a phone line and had a dedicated phone line for an internet connection. That was like super. Like you was like really cool. And then you'd show off and be like, I'm on MSN Messenger and I'm speaking to you on the phone. Check me out.
This is mental.
Really?
It's like, because I've never, like, everyone's always had like landlines or Wi-Fi and internet just around. Yeah.
You'd be hung for stuff like that. That would
witchcraft.
Be like, yeah, it would be completely like witchcraft if I rocked that out in the 90s, 100%.
That is mental. That's absolutely mental to hear.
We've gone a little bit on a tangent. It's all logical stuff. And I think this has been the big difference in things. Well, you had to wait. You literally had to go to that shop, go to Blockbuster. You had to watch it. You had 2 days to watch it. You had to send it back. And if it was a good human, you'd rewind it before you put it back in. And
you could be really horrible, couldn't you?
Yeah,
you could get right to the ending. Rewind it just enough to the ending.
Don't know what videos you're seeing.
I've just heard what you've said. Yeah.
But that's what you had to do. You literally had to rewind it, send it back within 2 days, or you got a fine. And that was the way the world went.
It's by post.
Yeah. And then what happened after that, Love Film kind of come around.
Mm.
So rather than going to Blockbuster, you have it delivered to your house, but you still postal, still had the problem with physical DVDs or cassettes or whatever. And then what then happened is all this time to wait kind of condensed. DVDs was a big one, right? Like straight away going from a VHS to a DVD was insane. Like the quality between the two was incredible. The fact you could just go check this out and pause it was like revolutionary, wasn't it? Like it was something else. And then you could, it was behind the scenes stuff, and there was a menu and all this stuff.
Don't get that anymore though. That's the one thing I'll say you missed. Don't get extras on a DVD like you used to.
Nah.
You'd always get just like random little bits that come with it. Like I think Aladdin used to have like a little game that come with the DVD.
Did it?
Yeah.
Well, think about that. When's the last DVD you bought? Or Blu-ray?
DVD or Blu-ray? I don't know. I can't even tell you. That's probably not in 4 or 5 years.
So you think even in your generation speaking, you've already seen it kind of go from a generation of even having DVDs, having a DVD player and that kind of stuff, to now you don't even need that.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, really, streaming wasn't around when I was growing up. It was the similar sort of thing where it's like you had to wait and see what was on TV.
Yeah.
It's like.
And that was the only other thing.
Yeah, you have to choose. You can't just say I want to watch whatever I want to watch when I want to watch it. It was like CBBC is showing Jungle Run, and that's what you're watching.
Jungle Run.
Yeah,
oh my god, that was brilliant.
Never got on it. 50-50. School never went on.
50. What about Funhouse? You ever see Funhouse?
No, I can't think I have.
Funhouse?
No.
With Pat Sharp.
Definitely not.
No, and the twins.
No.
That's not a euphemism. They're actually genuinely was twins.
Yeah, no, I can't. It doesn't ring a bell.
No?
No.
Oh, it was brilliant. It literally it was just a game show. Just Google it.
Yeah, I'll have a look at that.
It was like the best of the 90s. That would 100% pop up. Definitely. So there's my millennial bit for the day. I feel really old now.
Yeah, I feel really enlightened.
Nostalgic, yeah. But it's true because I feel like quite lucky in my generation where I've seen it from going, I can harness some of that technological advancements where my parents are pretty good at it, to be fair, but my grandparents haven't got a clue. Like, that's the big thing. My nan just about gets her head around an iPad, and we got her Facebook on her iPad, right? And then she decided to delete it because she had some unsavoury characters add her as a friend. And she was like looking at the profiles, going, I can't do this. And she just wanted to delete the app. I was like, Nan, you can literally just ignore it. Like, you don't have to delete everything.
Yeah.
She was like, no, I'm not having it if people like that are on there. I'm not interested. I'm like,
yeah, but the older generation of like baby boomers, probably not baby boomers, but older than that, is like
the old timers.
The old timers. Like, yeah,
there's no put a number on that.
Yeah, like my granddad bought an Alexa and took it back because he kept calling it Alicia. Just screaming in the house, Alicia. He's like, the thing doesn't work. He's like, just screaming Alicia when I goes, he's called Alexa. And then like we've got an Alexa for my nan as well,
right?
And it's like the video one, so we can just drop in on her and make sure she's all right, and just go like you just drop in. And then, like, she when she tries to make a call, she can make a call. But when she answers, she goes, hello? Like it's a phone. And it's like, no, you have to say, Alexa, answer.
Yeah.
So anyway, we just bypass and just drop in.
Just drop in.
Just drop in and just say, hey, I'm here. And then she's like...
Just look around the room for you. Like, Robbie,
no, she knows it's there now. She knows it's there now.
Actually speaking again.
Yeah, literally screaming, Alicia. The thing doesn't work. Just to play songs that you've got on literally on a VHS, probably.
Yeah. I used to that was quite a novel thing when those Alexas come out going, Alexa, play so-and-so song. It's like, well, it plays it. It does it. Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah. They are good, but I think a lot of it is novelty. But it's just that instantaneous of it. I think that's the massive thing that I think the younger generation and Gen Z look for.
You've had no experience about internet?
No.
But that one's sick. That's an interesting thing, isn't it? Do you know what a tree looks like to climb?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not climbing any trees, but in my younger days, I've been known to climb a tree. Yeah, been outside, touched grass.
What, like on an iPad? You've been outside, or like?
We were playing Minecraft. Yeah. No, younger. Yeah, to be fair, it wasn't. Maybe I was the last, probably 99, early 2000s, probably just the last of it. But yeah, it was definitely like you go outside. You didn't really have a mobile phone until you were like secondary school?
No, I had a mobile phone in secondary school, year 8, I think it was, year 7, year 8. So what? I was like 10, 11. But the only reason why I got one was when my parents, my dad wanted one to get hold of us as the kids. And I remember he showed me this thing called text message, and you could actually text people. Just
160 characters.
Message. Yeah, and
over that, it was 2 texts.
And then you couldn't save more than 10 messages and all this, that, and the other. The problem was I was quite an early adopter of it, but I had no one to text.
Yeah,
my dad.
just texting your dad.
Yeah, and that was it. How are you? That was 50p.
Yeah, and he's paying.
yeah, and he's paying for it. And that was the other thing. You think about that. Like, a text message used to cost between I think it might well have been 50p right at the start, and it was like 20p, 5p, whatever. And then that whole evolution happened, and then it started being like free text as long as you top up and all this kind of jazz. But that was the complete start of it. You had to pay so much money just to communicate, like 20 years ago, probably longer than that now, 20 odd years ago.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there was definitely text messages, and probably Facebook probably was around. Wouldn't have had WhatsApp, wouldn't have had Instagram, wouldn't have had anything like that.
Facebook must have been around 2007, 2006, something like that. But I think the first iteration we ever saw of like social media would have been forums, chat rooms, that kind of stuff. As about as social as it got, and it was just text on a screen. ASL. You know what that stands for?
I don't know what ASL stands for.
ASL, asexual location.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That was kind of how it started. You'd be talking to some random, and hopefully it wasn't Bob from Kentucky.
Yeah, who's not Dawn.
Sorry, Bob from Kentucky. By the way.
So it's not Dawn, who's also 14, that lives in Essex.
Exactly.
He's 68-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah.
The kind of darker side of the web.
Exactly. So you kind of go ASL, asexual location. You'd literally start a conversation from there, and there was always different things. And then it evolved to MSN Messenger, and this was a big thing. So if you had your dial-up and you was rich enough to have like 2 lines in your house, you'd go to school, talk to your friends, come home, and then talk to them all online. And that's it. You spend hours having like lots of different of these message boxes up, like WhatsApp, but have like 10 of them and just chatting to like 10 different people all at the same time. And that was it. And you was downloading legal or illegal music. Some people were doing that. Sharing things on the internet, webcams. You know, it was all so slow and so kind of like text based, and to send like an image took forever, you know, to go on a website to look at stuff was just you had to be like really patient with the world at that point. But it was all early adopter stuff. I got to see that through to seeing it now. So it's interesting when I talk to like younger generations where they've literally grown up with like social media and an expectation where things have to happen, bang 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 bang. And I'm like, dude, you had to wait for a film. Like, that's how far we've come.
Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing in terms of how instantaneous things in?
I don't know.
There's definitely some advantages. So you look like, for example, like next day delivery,
Amazon,
Amazon, like that's a huge one. I think even I was talking to someone, and they said in Switzerland they have same day delivery, where they guarantee you get delivery like basically within like 5 hours.
Yeah, they touched on that Amazon here for a little while, didn't they?
Yeah.
Where you could start buying things same day, but they've pushed it back out again. But I think by the things now. 10 p.m. Yeah, I've seen that. Delivery by 10 p.m.
Yeah, so
that happened to me last night. I got Ian's laptop. Do you know about this?
No, I know he's getting a new laptop or trying to.
I keep threatening. Well, he keeps threatening he wants a new laptop. So I said, well, if you get this deal done, I'll buy you a laptop. So now it's like Jake at the minute. I literally just got him on the hook.
Yeah, it's just
like, get this deal done.
If you do your homework, then you can have the ice cream.
Basically, yeah. He gets a really super duper laptop.
Not a bad deal.
It's working. He just needs to get a deal done. Okay, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? I think in some aspects it's amazing. I mean, Amazon, come on, like whatever you think of Jeff Bezos did sustainability and all the rest of it goes with it, the idea that you can order something on your phone now and it can be with you within 24 hours is incredible. That side of it's really good. I'm on the fence with it in a part because it's like anything. If you get things too easy, you don't appreciate it as much. I've always thought that. Like, if
definitely.
you see something, you haven't really had to work for it, haven't had to like really aspire to it. It's very hard to then really appreciate what journey you went through to get something.
Yeah, I think sometimes it can devalue the worth.
I think so.
I think when you look back at some of the things you're quite nostalgic about, it's normally, for me at least anyway, things was like, I had to save up pocket money and I had to do, chores around the house, and then managed to save up enough money to go and buy that. Whereas if it's just given to you.
Yeah.
Does it hold its value as much? Because it's about, I don't want to say, it's quite cliche, I don't want to say it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. But it's a similar sort of thing where it's like,
I think so. And how long would you have waited when you was a kid for that pocket money to get whatever it is you was buying? Months.
Yeah, a month.
A month, yeah. Or whatever it is. And I wonder, I don't know, but I wonder how long people are genuinely have got that patience to actually have, and dedication to save for whatever it is, that thing they're looking to buy nowadays. I don't know what that would even look like. Even if you are a kid, and it's not safe if it was Gen Z. Let's look if it was Gen, what's your brother's generation now?
Alpha.
Alpha.
I'm being told off screen.
Okay. Don't tell him he's an alpha. Christ.
Yeah, definitely won't be.
So Gen Alpha. So if you're a Gen Alpha, so what's that like? If you're a teenager type thing now, right? Ish. 11.
Oh, they're not.
Okay.
They're not alphas then.
They're not alphas. But they've grown up in a generation of people where if they want to watch TV, they can watch anything they want instantly, listen to what they want. You know, the parents will get them whatever they do within 24 hours practically. I wonder how much of an effect that's going to have in you need to save up for that. Because I know even for Jake, like telling him to save up some pocket money, be good for more than 2 days, and then you'll get something, is so difficult. I can never say to him, you need to be good for a month and I'll take you to a Pokemon shop or something. You just wouldn't last.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of truth in that, I think, in terms of the longevity of things and even like the financial well-being, I think, of people going forward as well. Because where things are getting more expensive, people coming into the workforce where they've had everything like that instantaneous, it's very easy to not have to save for things and not have that financial well-being side of things attached to it as well. Yeah. Where you're looking at things going, well, if I need to buy X, Y, and Z, I can just have it in my door tomorrow. Whereas maybe with, millennials or older generations, you kind of appreciate the value of things and actually saving and kind of having that rainy day. Yeah,
I think there's lots of part of that. On the flip side of all this, though, I think the one thing that the younger generations are getting better is the use of technology a lot quicker. Yeah. You think of like the advancements we've even made, even since we joke about it, since the days of like Love Film, which wasn't that long ago. Do you think that would have been 12 years ago? How old am I? 36. That probably must have come out when I was 21. So since that time, it's come up leaps and bounds, and now like you say, got Netflix and Amazon Prime from like a streaming perspective, right? And Amazon's come a long way since then. But even since then, it's all these kids are like on their phones or using any sort of but they're so. I'm gonna use DeVito's word. It's like fluent with it. It is so fluent. They can literally just pick this stuff up and just go bosh, 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 done. Yeah. No, that's pretty impressive, and that's probably where we're getting into this whole. How can we improve our technology to do things more for us? And I think that's kind of where naturally it's going. And this is where this AI, machine learning is all coming into hand. Because it's not the older generation, it might be millennials to a point, that are creating this technology. It's actually younger folk. They're actually thinking, okay, we've got this far. How can we improve that? How can we automate this? How can we, go one step further?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's at different ages, viewpoints. Gen Z will probably look, well, I'm doing things more efficiently. Yeah. Whereas maybe millennials and older generations will say you're taking shortcuts. You're being lazy. Yeah. And I think it's how you look at it. And I think as long as the accuracy and the quality is there, it's just finding that balance. There's definitely, there's definitely a lot of advantages to having things instantly.
Yeah, I think so.
And not having to wait to send a letter in the post and then hear back. You just send an email or a text or a WhatsApp or whatever it may be, and it's done straight away, and you can kind of move things a lot quicker.
I think that's a good thing to have.
But it's just as long as that quality isn't jeopardised because of that. And using automation or using technology to aid you in what you do or get it to do the work for you is great, but as long as that quality isn't tarnished or kind of dropped.
Yeah, and I reckon the more of the younger generation are looking for companies that will want to enhance on that and take it on. Because I know, even as a millennial, if I was to get another job, I'd probably would be looking for companies that actually have at least the foresight to kind of go, this is how we're using technology in a different way that's more innovative, and we're going to use your skill in a different way, but we're going to use technology to enhance what you do or support what you do a lot better. That to me seems to be a very logical step in the right direction. Why work hard when you can work smart? Why do things manually when you can automate?
Yeah, work from home.
Yeah,
that's the biggest one, right?
Yeah.
I know I'm in the office every day, but probably because the office is 10 minutes from where I live. if it was an hour journey into London, I don't think I'd want to do it every day. Whereas, 3 years ago, before COVID, it never really ever came up. It was just expected. You're going to work from.
It was very rare. Like, the only times I can genuinely think we used to work from home prior to COVID would have been, I don't know, got a delivery or the kids are playing up. I need to stay home today. But it was always in, wasn't it? For us anyway.
Yeah. I think for a lot, but even speaking to candidates, it was never really an expectation or even an ask of, can I work from home? Do they have any hybrid working? It was kind of just said that you work in an office. Whereas now, it's almost the flip side. Whereas if you've got a hybrid role, that's kind of the norm. Or if you've got something where it's completely remote, and if you're saying to someone, I've got a job and it's fully office-based, that's almost alien to people. And
People
I find,
especially
with Gen Z.
Yeah, their expectations are different. Well, okay, so I think there's two things here.
What they find important is different.
Yes, definitely. But I can understand that because you're completely consumed and surrounded by people like that.
Yeah.
And I think this is one thing social media does very well and very badly, is that it gives the perception that everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I hate about that whole piece, is that black mirror that you're kind of looking at is only really showing you what you want to see. You want to kind of Google that kind of stuff, you'll find like-minded people. There's 7 billion people on the planet. You're going to find a population of people that's a collective that agree with whatever it is you decide.
Yeah.
And I've definitely seen, I've never seen it before, and it is more Gen Z, where their expectations are almost parable to other people doing exactly the same thing as they are. And I've heard this maybe 5 or 6 times recently. We're going, John's on 100 grand a year, so I need to be on 100 grand a year. And I get it, like in terms of you might deserve it because you've got the same skill or not, but they're almost demanding it because John's got it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not saying I want to work towards it or what's he done, what's his journey. I need to copy that, follow it, make it better, whatever. It's more like John's got it. I've seen on social media he's on 100 grand a year, so I should be asking him 100 grand a year. Yeah. I've not seen that before, but I'm definitely seeing that a lot more.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's some statistics that DeVrieti's kind of collated. It's like Gen Z workers expect a higher average salary. Business Insider, $65,000.
That doesn't surprise me. You think the cost of living...
To be honest with you, that doesn't surprise me at all in terms of the average income.
It does make sense, right? When I very first started 16 years ago in doing recruitment, my very first recruitment job, I got paid 22 grand. I don't think that's even changed.
No.
For 16 years.
So sales is definitely a funny one. The entry level, it seems to always.
But even like graduate jobs.
Level.
Well, how much is a graduate job that we've kind of seen in recent years?
Yeah, 25.
25 grand, 30 if you're lucky.
Yeah, 30. But then on the flip side, there's a lot more work from home.
Yeah.
I think the expectation, and I'm gonna kind of put my neck on the line here.
Here we go.
I think the expectations for graduates is a lot lower than it used to be, in a sense of they're probably exposed to a lot more areas of the business, and it's more around learning, which is a good thing. But in terms of actual business performance, the expectations are a lot lower.
From them?
Say. From the individuals. In a sense of you're expected to kind of just understand the business and understand what we do, learn more, but not so much worried about this is your day to day. You're going to be sitting there, doing the teas and coffees, and you're going to be.
Oh, they don't do that anymore, do they?
No.
I think long gone are those days where you could say you're a grad, you need to be in the mailroom, and you need to be like.
Here's an Excel spreadsheet. Just go and
photocopy the bloody dictionary. Oh my god! Do you know what?
It is literally. Yeah.
That's what they asked me to do. I remember that now, and I thought about it as a printing company, and I should name and shame it actually if I think about who the name is, but I won't. Unless I think about it, then I will. And that's what they got. So my work experience literally was, there was a book, and I can't remember, I didn't even look at it. They said just photocopy every page. I literally just sat me down and said, that is your work. And I remember feeling at the time, I went, fuck this. Yeah. I thought, if this is work, not interested.
Yeah.
They literally made me, they had a photocopier, and they were like, just go to the page, next one. The funny thing was, I remember thinking, I need to get this done as quickly as possible. So I remember trying to figure out a way how, if you did like 100 copies, say you go 100, and if you was quick enough, you could literally scan the page, do another one, do another one. So I managed to do it really fast. So I managed to finish the book, and I went, there you go, it's done. They went, oh, well there's another one. I was there for a whole week.
That's all you did?
That's all I did. Oh, it was awful.
Why did they need it?
I have no idea, mate.
Probably
I didn't ask. I just remember feeling so deflated by the end of it. I just thought, this is like, this can't be work. Like, really? Yeah. So yeah, that was my life for a whole week. Actually, it was 2 weeks, I think. I think the second week I was sick.
Yeah,
it's weird,
I'm not surprised. Yeah, ink poisoning.
Yeah.
Literally, like it's a funny one.
Yeah.
Do you know what though? There's a lot to be said where it's like people who overachieve, and I've seen this on. There's quite a few. I can't actually remember the names, but there's quite a lot of TikTok pages where they kind of talk about like corporate lifestyle, and it's what people perceive, but they always do the comparisons, and they are comedy skits anyway. But it's like Gen Z. It's always like Friday. Gen Z's not in the office. They're not at home. They're out doing things. They've got an out of office on. Millennials are making up the work that anyone else has done, and then baby boomers are sort of managing strategically, but not actually doing a lot on the Friday. On the Friday, yeah. And I've seen a few skits like that, but it's always the perception of Gen Z is that they're not working.
Are you working?
Well, yeah.
On a Friday?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, chairs spinning. I think in terms of what's important to Gen Z, which is probably more different to other generations, is it's the flexibility and it's the work-life balance. I think has never been.
It's never been greater.
Yeah, never been greater.
That's for everyone, right? And what's the populace though, isn't it? There's still.
But in terms of demanding it at an earlier stage.
Oh right, yeah.
Well, that's a phrase that gets thrown around a lot, just in general. But it's like you need to earn your stripes.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of almost at the moment like, well, if the company doesn't give it to me from day dot, I'll find someone that will. And I think that's where the talent war kind of comes in, and you get into these kind of.
I think
bidding wars on salaries and flexibility, and
there is that. I think that is probably is a big difference. And again, I think this goes back to this whole idea of being patient and waiting and earning the right, or whatever words you want to use around. And you've got to be careful with the wording, because if you say to someone, you've got to earn the right, you've got to be here to let people don't want to hear it. No. But I don't know. I've always kind of truly believed that you've got to kind of work hard, no matter what doesn't matter what you do. You can't get fit physically without working out. It's impossible. I challenge anyone to get physically fit without actually doing something, eating right and going to the gym and being dedicated. Same goes for your career and your job. No matter what age you are, what generation you think you come from, if you're not willing to put the graft in, you ain't going to get the result. So all right, I'll move. We'll keep doing it. Keep moving. Keep having your cheat day. Don't worry about it. Like, it will catch up. And I think
we see a lot of that. A lot of people, it's like, I've always, I had this chat with a hiring manager. It's like, okay, here's this, this is their profile. It didn't work out. They were here, this company for a couple of years, decided to move on. Wasn't quite what they thought it was. We've all had it where.
Got to turn up, got to work.
Well, not that. It's just you've sold a bit of a lemon. It's not exactly what you thought it was. You go to a new company after 6 months and it's the same story. It's not what you thought it was. Then another company, and then you start going, okay, once is unfortunate, twice is really unfortunate, 3 times is a bit more of a, it's a coincidence. Yeah. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot more. It's like, just because it's not happy right away, and I think happy is probably not the right word to use, but just because it isn't your dream job every time, I don't think there is such thing as a dream job, in my view, because there's always something else. There's always something more that you could be asking. Yeah, but as long as it ticks 60, 70%,
I think that's all you can ever.
You don't wake up on Monday and say, I really don't want to be here.
I was quite interested in this kind of stat, right? Okay, it's interesting the importance of flexibility in the workplace and remote working options. So apparently 74% of Gen Z state that this is their top priority. Top of having that flexibility. So what are the ages for a Gen Z again? So we're talking, if you're
97,
97,
so what, 25 to
25 years old
to 20. No.
20, 25? Around that kind of age, isn't it? So you're a young adult, basically.
Yeah, 20, 25.
What I don't understand, right? So if you're 20 to 25 years old, what flexibility in working from home do you really need at 20 to 25? I'm actually asking.
Yeah, well,
right?
I'm thinking, at 25, maybe you've got a young family.
Yeah.
Going on averages, probably, 24, 25. Pets, I think it's definitely a big one. People say, I need, need to look after my mouse.
Yeah.
But yeah, pets is probably up there.
Actually, you know what? They're actually bringing this in though, aren't they? What did I read about this? About, oh my goodness. There's something that, tell you what it is, it's landlords. So if you're a tenant, they've changed the laws and the flexibility to allow pets and stuff in rented accommodation for well-being.
Yeah. I can't agree with that, to be fair. I think you can't sell a flat and say you can't have kids.
No, yeah.
Kids are probably messier than most pets, let's be honest.
Actually, yeah, start a lot more fires.
Yeah. Your kids setting a lot of fires recently? Or Solo's running around with a box of matches?
Yeah,
That's the dog, by the way.
That's the dog, just FYI. No, I find this interesting. Certainly for Gen Z, that's their top priority to have flexibility
That
and
does
remote working options.
It doesn't surprise me, but in the same vein, you think 20 to 25 is probably when you'd be a bit more sociable.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I get the input, and I'm not taking that away in terms of like your own life, work-life balance, and blah blah blah. But arguably speaking, this is your time to actually start getting into work. You've got, unless you make some different choices, this is your time where you're not completely dependent always on children or partners and this, that, and the other. You're fresh out of the box, you're getting into work, and the first thing you want is, I want to actually spend more time on my own. You kind of go, really? Surely learning about work and what it's all about and figuring it all out, being around people, experiences. This is one thing where school, in my mind, gets it right and wrong. It's like you get a curriculum and the rest of it. You could do all that from home. Yeah. Why do you need a school? What do you need? I'd actually argue
that if you did it purely from home, you'd get better results.
Probably, but what else is school for? And
Social.
I think it's right, yeah. And I think this is the other element that if that really is, and that's their top priority, that's the piece that's now going to be missing. Is that right? So you want all this flexibility, you want this opportunity to work from home because you do your job from home, absolutely, no doubt. But you could have also done that throughout most of your adolescent life with school. All right, it's by law you've got to go to school, but the whole point of it is you're socialising, you're collaborating, you are literally putting yourself in an environment where you have to be social, have ideas and listen to ideas and listen to different points of view.
Yeah, see what's going on around you as well.
You should be able to absorb that.
For example, the new lad today, we're not just throwing him in saying, right, work from home and, we'll Teams you.
Yeah, imagine
literally that. Sit down and just listen to what's going on around you, sit with people, ask them questions.
He's coming in at the what is it, 1997, so he's very much Gen Z, or at least at that cusp of, right?
Yeah.
So he's coming in, and that's all I've asked him to do, is literally gone, there's your laptop, this is the kind of crux of what we do as a business. All I want you to do is shadow and learn and be a sponge and socialise and collaborate and ask questions for a week. Yeah. At least. Like bare bones minimum, 1 week. That's all I want you to do. If I said to him, do you know what? You could actually do a lot of this from home. Just go off and go home now.
Yeah, just Teams me if you know for questions.
I just don't get what kind of image that would send.
It's interesting as well. Just look further down. 75% of Gen Z believe that on-the-job training and development is essential.
I mean, I think everyone would believe that.
Yeah.
But then here we go. So that's an interesting one, isn't it? So you think, okay, so you need to be in the office, realistically, for us anyway, to do a lot more on-the-job training, because I'm not going to dial you to every single call that happens in the business. You need to be here. But then that literally, like you said, is completely contradictory of more remote work. Okay, maybe they're saying the actual option from remote working and flexibility, but I would have thought that would have been the top one, really.
Definitely, especially at that age bracket as well. And also, do you think, well, I'd actually argue when you were, 20, 25, what was important to you when you were coming through the ranks?
I don't think I'm allowed to say as No.
But it is that learning, salary.
I think this was as a millennial, is that you didn't have all these other options. That there was no work-life balance. There was work, and you leave your crap at the door. Quite literally, if your personal life at the door, you come to work. You put on your brave face and you put your big boy pants on. You just get on with it. That was it. But I very much thrived in that environment because I didn't need a work-life balance. I had to work. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be around successful people, so that's what I did. And I spent 12 hours a day for a decade of my life doing that. But I earned good money. I got to see some cool shit and got to really understand how things worked. And all I remember as a young man, is having a post-it note. And I remember this from my broking days. And all they did was tell you, like, write 5 things that motivate you. And it was all materialistic. So it was like car, money, holiday, watch, whatever. And you'd have it there on your screen. And that's all you lived by. And everything went to the side. You didn't have all this, mental well-being, or I need to bring my whole self to work, I need a duvet day, I need to have a flexible minute because of my pet mouse is going to have 4 back. There was none of that shit. It was just very much, you turn up, you get on, you work hard, and you can worry about all that stuff later. And then guess what, all your problems outside of work won't be problems, because financially speaking, you'll be able to do all the things you want to do. So that was my experience. Very, very different to a lot of people, I'm sure. But that was definitely mine.
I think it depends on, I think a big part of it as well is that we look at it from like a consultant sales side as well, where it is very target driven. It is very much around obviously, how you perform billings-wise, commission.
I had that in my head anyway. But then I think that was the generation I grew up in.
Yeah, but then maybe is it different if you're, working in, say, compliance, where you're not, your job is to complete tasks. It's not, how am I going to word this? With what we do, it's quite never-ending in a sense of there's always a bigger target. You could always do more. Whereas if you're a compliance, if you're doing compliance and financial crime, you're set tasks and projects, and once you've completed those projects, you're done. In a sense of
I think so. But then you still had the same thing. You still had you had to turn up 9 to 5. You had earned the right. That was still the same thing. If you worked in a bank or whatever, when same age when I was 20 odd, you had the same sort of thing. Actually, it was worse because you had to sit at that desk. You may have had to have done 6 months, a year, 18 months worth of work before anyone even look at you.
Yeah.
To even think about getting a pay rise or a promotion or anything, you'd have to sit in that seat and show me you can do your job well consistently over a period of time before we even have a conversation. That was the world, definitely. And I think, to be fair, was that right? Was it wrong? I think that's just an arguable point. I think if you're a Gen Z, you'd argue that to the hill, because who the hell would want to go through that nowadays? Yeah,
you would do it. You wouldn't see it. It might not. It's probably I couldn't really see it where it would be that archaic almost, where it's like before 12 months we're not even going to talk about what's next for you. And I think a lot of it is, again, probably older generations than boomers, but it was very much you need to find a job and then you just need to keep hold of it for as long as possible.
Yeah.
Whereas now people look at it and go, well, there are options, and I do have other things out there. And going back to that instantaneous, if I want a new job, if you are a Gen Z and you're mid to early 20s and you haven't got those dependencies, you can take that risk.
You can be flexible later. I think, do you know what? I think this is the thing, right? There's always a time to be flexible. If you want something enough, half this shouldn't really matter. It really shouldn't. It should be more just find a good environment that's going to give you the best opportunity for you to thrive in your role. Period. If you want all these other bits and pieces, you're probably only going to find those very flattish type of roles. I just don't see it. I just don't see a world where you could almost go like, I want to have this amazing work-life balance. I want to be completely flexible. I want them to give a shit about my cat, and I want every opportunity I possibly can, and I want it now. I can't see it.
No.
I can't see how any one person can give that to another person without the person first of all saying, well, you haven't done X, Y, and Z and ABC, and you haven't been through these scenarios in life yet. I'll sod you, then I'll go and find someone else. If that's the world we're leaning in, not interested. And actually, that would be a faux pas, because all that's going to happen is the millennials before them are just going to outwit all the ones in the next generation. So for me, I'm like, that's cool. Like, I will work hard and I'll work faster and more efficient because I've seen it all. So if you don't want to pick up slack, we will. So that's quite an interesting thing. I think I've seen this on Instagram. That's probably why it's all kind of like rattling around in my brain.
Yeah, definitely. But I think there's definitely a change in culture, and I think what that's coming from is millennials are now in senior management positions. They are CEOs and MDs and running businesses, whereas
and
it's
they're hands-on still. This is the thing. Like, it's not like the old school where you had the C-suite and a different building and stuff. Like, a lot of the millennials have been very hands-on in senior positions and going, well, I'm very operational as well as strategic. So I think that's all just experience though, right? So
yeah, but I think it's a different way of managing businesses and different perspective. And what we'll probably find is that in 50 years, when millennials are no longer running the businesses and Gen Z are running it, as they get older, Gen Z, as we get older, the mindset will change.
It'll evolve,
as well, and the priorities will change, because all of a sudden you go, well, I've got a family now, I've got a mortgage, I'm on the property ladder, I've got bills to pay, I need to kind of, I don't want to use the word grow up, but it's just all of a sudden your priorities change.
Good word,
develop,
evolve,
evolve.
Tell you what though,
and all of a sudden it'll be the same conversations of millennials, of Gen Z saying these Gen Alphas, all they want is they just want to film TikToks and they're not working. They don't put the hours in, and I think it's probably a conversation that baby boomers had about millennials when they were coming through it. They think this internet thing will help them. They should just get on a abacus and.
No, it's true. Do you know, with all the bashing I could honestly do with this, I think the one good thing, it's true.
There's a lot of bashing, and I'm probably with you as well, because I'm, there's a lot of things on here that I agree with, but there's a lot of things on here that I don't think are the right way to act either.
I don't. I think this is only just from our own personal experience, right? Because
Yeah.
where we've interviewed people and I look at some people's attitudes and go, we're either attracting the wrong type of person or there's something not quite right with how these individuals are being taught about the world. One of the two. And maybe it's something at the most, maybe it's something in the middle. But the one thing I do like and what we are seeing is this movement more towards ESG. Now, what is ESG, Devriti? Environmental, social. Okay, right. Because I thought it was, just didn't know what the acronym was for. But I do like this, and this is something I think we've kind of touched on anyway as a business. Climate change, and environmental concerns. I think that's a great one, because when you think back in history, when with companies and organisations, they never really gave a toss too much around.
They just want to seem like they do.
Seem like they do, buying credits and having a little plaque on the wall and going, anything. You're not actually physically doing anything. You're just buying it because you have enough money to do so. But individuals now are really thinking about that, and that younger populace of people are really starting to pave the way and blaze a trail around what environmentally friendly is in an actual actionable way, and that's different, and that's really great to see that people actually care more than they ever have done.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's that whole piece, as well as just general culture, is so important for Gen Z as well, in terms of the people that I'm working with when I am in the office. What are they actually like? And a big part of it is around the diversity piece as well. And it's a massive question I'm hearing at the moment, which is, to be fair, diversity inclusion's been a big talking point for a number of years. But I think the younger generation that are coming through now is so important, because it's something that they want to change.
Well, they're in the whole Brave New World, right? I think there is still very much aspects of unconscious bias and racism and those types of things, and I think the younger generation of people are doing exactly that, right? Weed out, okay, who's really taking acknowledgement of this, and we've seen it, right, where you get these companies go, we're so like diverse, so inclusive, we're all about that.
Stock photos.
Stock photos, and then you kind of get them in an interview, and a lady kind of interviews for a job, and it's just by a bunch of like middle-aged white folk. And you kind of go, don't really understand the equality there. That is happening still, where the words are being said and you can make it look really pretty, but actually, what are you actually doing? And I think that's something that we're seeing a lot more from the new generation.
I think Gen Z are not afraid to call out the bullshit either.
Good.
And I think that's the one thing that we've kind of seen as well, is like, look, you can tell me one thing, but if I don't see it, and I think that corporate governance and that whole kind of corporate meh that we kind of spoke about in episode 1, that is definitely being called out a lot more. You think about even on Twitter, like how quickly the younger generation is to kind of go after companies or people where they kind of are not doing the right thing.
I think that's good. I think actually, do you know what? Technology and social media and those types of things have given those people a platform, because before the internet, when you just had Google, you could put it on a forum, but who's really seeing that? They didn't really have a populace of people that were really taking note of it. If they did, it was more just being spoken about internally for the circle of friends that you had. Whereas at least with Instagram and TikTok, and even if you go back as Facebook, LinkedIn, you have a platform, a voice, a following, and then you can have you put your flag in the sand of what you really think about things. And again, I think because everyone's so interested in this aspect of things, if it's socially or economically wrong, you can put it on there and you will find a following of people that go, I agree with you. And then there's the voice. So I think that's where it's become really intelligent for a younger generation of people to go, how can I use this platform to raise awareness for things? How can I shout about things that are really kind of important to me? And how can I find others that are like that? And I think that's where it's starting to blend into the working part of it, to go, right, well, these are my actual core values. How can I find an organisation that's going to give me all those opportunities and that I deserve, but think about the sustainability of what we're actually leaving behind whilst being diverse and inclusive. I mean, that's a huge step from what I'm even thinking to when I very first started in work. Half those words didn't even exist. Not really.
No, and they weren't publicly spoken about and brought light to. There was a handful of companies that were kind of...
Yeah, you had like a playbook around be a good human and whatnot, but there was never this kind of like push for getting women into more senior leadership roles. It just wasn't spoken about. It wasn't a thing. And actually, probably at that time, it was so novel still, it was almost laughable. Just about. I think it was still very much, I had senior females in position stuff, but you never saw it. It was very rare that you kind of went to a meeting with a senior individual and then a woman would actually rock out. It would always be a bloke. But that's changed dramatically, which is amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there needs to be more of that as well, and kind of continuing all the steps that they've kind of made. And I think that will only improve and be much more prevalent as Gen Z, rises through the ranks in their own careers and eventually, becomes, management and senior management, and kind of the torch gets handed over.
Yeah, well, this is a stat. Okay, so 77% of Gen Z respondents believe that a diverse workforce is crucial for innovation and problem solving, by McKinsey. I think they're completely true. I think when you think about,
I'm surprised it's not higher percentage.
It's got to be. It's probably just. I would imagine it probably is higher, but I wonder who would go against that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, who's
the other ones? So there you go. Not everyone's thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I suppose the idea here is that it's for innovation, problem solving, and I think it's completely right, because if you have lots of people and lots of different points of view, you can almost have a better picture of what's really going on. That's the whole point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, of being inclusive and diverse, is that we take other people's opinions, put them together, and spit out something that arguably was better than what you and me as white folk could have done in one sense.
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly the whole point. Isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's different perspectives, different angles as well. It's like you said, if you have a business of, if you always think about old boys clubs, middle-aged
white
bankers,
folk.
that are all white men that probably live in affluent areas, you're never going to get a different viewpoint. It's just going to be loads of people agreeing with each other.
Yeah, this kind of goes back into, if you're looking to set up an organisation or looking to scale a company, you have to think about that from the day dot. Like, how is that perceived? What are your values? Do you want to be a group of individuals with all the same sort of trail of thought and the same sort of idea, or do you want to be challenged? Do you want to think a bit more creativity about how you build businesses? And the only way you're going to do that is having different points of view.
Definitely. I think that's a big misconception that people have around culture as well, is like, oh, they think like us. Whereas sometimes culture, a good culture is people that don't think like you and actually challenge your decisions.
It's brilliant.
And have a different way of thinking and say, actually, there is a better way of doing this, a different way of doing this. What about this group of people? How is that going to estrange them from the business? And I think that's what's important as well.
I think it's about having the foresight to actually acknowledge it as well. I think some people are so kind of cautious about change, and rightfully so. Change is different. Change is awkward. It's not very much in our nature to change, and your brain has got such a clever way to program yourself to do the same thing, and if anything that deviates from that is uncomfortable. But if you can be open enough to think, all right, I've got my way of doing things, but what's a better way, a different way of doing it, what's the worst that can happen? Yeah.
And finding a way to get the best out of Gen Z, what works for them to get the best out of their traits, their I suppose thoughts, their viewpoints, and how that can kind of help drive the business on. So I think that the key things that we kind of spoke about is technology. They're going to be the early adopters to technology and probably drive that change, a different way of thinking, culture. I think if you think about culture as well, the main drivers, I would argue, are probably Gen Z, millennials, the younger generation that are going to be driving culture and business. It's going
to be millennials downward, really, but I think millennials will still have the main populace of the world.
Must do.
I think I can't remember exactly what year it was, but it was something ridiculous. By like next year or 2025, 75% of the population are going to be millennial. And you think about that for a minute, like that whole next generation hasn't really come through yet, but what they're building, in my mind, it does make complete sense. I think the one drawback the millennials had, and definitely baby boomers, is exactly what I said earlier about my upbringing, which was you just burn yourself out fast to get all the things that you want, whereas if you're lucky enough to be around long enough, actually this is probably a more sustainable way to think about your career. So maybe that's the trade-off, and that's the change that even for me to think about for new generations of going, all right, you don't necessarily have to work 14 hours a day and slog your guts to like a dog. Perhaps we can use technology to influence and automate a lot of that, so we can use your skills more wholly, get you to where you want to be and give you that flexibility while still performing at a very high level. you know. And actually that bodes back into one of the other stats in here, which is around mental health. I mean, look, mental health and well-being in the workplace has always been a thing to a point, but honestly,
brushed under the carpet, just get on with it.
Mental health back in the day for me was your boss take you for a beer and go, what's going on? All right, man up, just get on with it.
Yeah.
That was kind of it. Where now it's actually a lot more serious, it's a lot more kind of thought, and it's a lot more like, if we can get you in a good mental state of mind, professionally and personally, and help you along that journey and signpost you to the right things, then that will increase performance and enhance your career aspirations, and also help with retention. So the stat here from the BBC, this one, very important, yeah, very established organisation.
Yeah, and we definitely pay our TV licences.
And we pay our TV licences, yes. 76% of all Gen Zs think that corporate social responsibility, mental health and well-being in the workplace is actually a real key factor within their decision making as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think, especially in millennial candidates that you speak to, a lot of the reasons when I say I'm looking is burnout.
Yeah.
And I think it's about identifying that, where, like you said, you kind of burn too quickly and you go, right, I now need to blow out, or whatever it may be.
Definitely had that.
Whereas with the Gen Z population, if they're kind of looking at it and saying, well, that flexibility, maybe it doesn't necessarily need to be work from home, but whatever it may be, that flexibility and that kind of culture and everything that they're looking for kind of helps deter that burnout.
I think that it needs
definitely still happens, and I think it's just...
Of course it does. I think if you're a young individual, you're successful, and it comes with a lot of other fast things, you just want more and more and more and more, right? But you can get to a point where you just completely burn out because you're just overworked. And I remember when I was about 20, it was when I was 25, 25th birthday, I definitely felt about that completely. And I remember I was earning more money than I can do with even, so I just spent a lot of it on booze and other things. And at that point, I remember I burned through hundreds and thousands of pounds of alcohol, just going out every night. Just I was so kind of like misted by what was kind of going on around me, and it genuinely took me a minute to go, what the fuck am I doing? Because I was just completely overworked, and all I was doing is working, drinking, being successful apparently, and it goes running this cycle, just do more, just go. And in the end, after about 6 weeks, I was just like, this is just ridiculous, ridiculous. And all the money I'd made, I spent it all. Yeah, all of it.
So you're actually back to square one.
I was worse than square one. So I think I nearly kind of ended my relationship. That was the first thing that nearly went. Nearly lost my job practically over it because of stupid decisions I was making. But it was only because, like, at that time, that was the only thing you was told. Just get on, just keep going. It doesn't matter. No one wasn't really thinking about it.
Get to Friday afternoon and just blow out and then come back on Monday.
Go again. We used to do it on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, probably the only night off. Like, literally. But, yeah, you had a good time.
Yeah. Live to tell the tale.
Just about. Yeah. A few more grey hairs from it, but that was all good. So, yeah. No, if they've got that in their minds about work-life balance and more well-being and more of that, it's definitely probably not a slower pace, but more thought of what we're doing. Purpose.
Actually working with purpose rather than just working for the sake of it.
Maybe that's exactly it. Maybe no one's really coined that per se yet, but maybe all these different attributes that are coming through now for Gen Z, for alphas, is really think about purpose and your why you're doing things. I mean, we hear this tons now, don't we? What's your why? Why are you doing it? Like, purpose over pleasure, Phil says, right? Like, perhaps that really is the way the world's going, is thinking about, well, why am I doing this? Why do I have to be in 5 days a week in an office? Why can't I do this from home?
Work with purpose. Why with him? What's in it for me?
Yeah.
And I think just taking the time to breathe and not needing that instant gratification. Because working with purpose is different to saying, I need to be promoted, I need a pay rise now. Everything's going up, it needs to be now. It's just having that clarity and that vision to say, if I do X, Y, and Z, I will get to this destination. Yeah. And knowing that, you're doing it for a reason. One thing that we always say to everyone is, well, I was told since I've joined, I say to people, it's like, I don't ask you to do anything I wouldn't do myself. Yep. And I think that's so important, having that fairness to the younger generation coming through that are going into apprenticeships and graduate schemes and trainees.
That's a very good point. That's actually...
Not just getting them to do the legwork for the sake of it.
Yeah, in actual fact, that's probably the key part of it, really, isn't it? Is just don't get people to do things that you wouldn't do yourself.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
Don't make someone photocopy 100 pages.
I can't believe I had to do that.
Yeah. You should definitely name drop them in the
I
credits.
should do, but I genuinely cannot remember right now who it was. But I'll find it and I'll definitely name drop it. They probably don't even exist anymore. If that was their business, that's got to go out the window,
print's
right?
got to be.
Print, yeah. I mean, print's got to be hard at the best of times now, right?
Yeah.
In the digital world, I suppose. Okay, so we've kind of really battered Gen Zs, but then we built them back up again.
Yeah. And I think everyone.
I say we, me.
Yeah. I'm part of
millennial.
them, and I've battered them a little bit. I've battered myself a little bit, but I think it's always the older generation. I was trying to think of another word, but I thought let's commit to this. The older generation to the generation coming through will always have negatives, but
opinions,
negative opinions,
or just opinions.
Yeah, or just opinions. But then if you think back to when you were coming through and the bosses that you had, probably saying the same thing about you, saying, "Oh, Sam thinks he's clever using MSN and MS DOS."
When I look back on it, I was definitely that guy. I think I don't need you, and all the things that go with that.
Yeah, you're sitting there with a piece of pen and paper. I've got a calculator.
I was basically Jamie. That's what it was. 16 years ago. That's exactly what it was. I look at him and I go, yeah, I get it, mate. I was there. Yeah. But, and I think this is where it all kind of comes together. So if you're sitting there and you're thinking, how on earth am I going to actually get this population of people to come on this journey, come and work for an organisation that's going to, I suppose, think about all these things and make it attractive for Gen Z. What have we got to do? And there's a couple of pieces that I'm reading here which I think is quite interesting. So it talks about the first one being an early adoption of digital transformation. So talking about digital tools and platforms, I completely agree.
Yeah.
We talk about it sort of nearly every podcast, but ChatGPT. We haven't really found a home for it yet properly, not in like a commercial sense, but it is coming, whether we like it or not, or some iteration of ChatGPT, right?
Yeah. Even just systems like, I know it sounds silly, but just changing to Manitel, our CRM.
Oh my God, yeah, what a game changer.
Like, it's such a peace of mind just to know if I put it on there, it's done. It's just easy to use. I'm not having to go from system to system.
Yeah, that was...
Just making life easy. Even the fact that, like, laptops.
Yeah.
State-of-the-art laptops, especially Ian's new one potentially.
Oh, he's going to love that when he gets it.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, I've got good equipment, I can use it. I'm not sitting there waiting around to download a document. I'm not sitting there crashing.
And I think actually this part of it is just being open to change, right? Because it wasn't that long ago we was doing contracts still physically, like print it out, sign it, scan it, send it back. Little things like digitizing as much as you can. I think automation and robotics, particularly RPA, I think there's two great things there. Like Calendly, like there's one misconception I think a lot of people have of the old generation of AI. It sounds scary. Artificial intelligence. What do you think about when you say AI?
The first thing I think of is iRobot.
I thought iRobot
with Will Smith.
Yeah, I thought
even the way it looks is how I imagine it.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah,
but you think about it, right? AI is something as simple as Calendly. That's AI. It just automates your calendar. So it's just a simple booking tool that hooks onto your Office 365. You can send it as a link and people can book in a time to speak to you that is convenient within your diary. That's AI. Not so scary anymore. No,
it's not a voice in a computer talking to you.
It could be. Yeah. I suppose it is like Alexa.
Yeah.
Or Alicia.
Yeah, Alicia.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's been decommissioned. Not in use. Yeah.
Alicia is no more.
Yeah.
So that's the first one, isn't it? I think I completely agree. If I was starting out now, I'd be looking for things like that. If someone turned around and go, "No, we do things all manually, and you got to do this and do that," I'd be like, "I'll sod this." Like, there's so many other ways to do things better. So I think it's not to say you have to have it, but I think at least be open to change when it comes to platforms, automation, digitizing of things, and don't go down this road of this is the way we've done it for the past 40 years.
Yeah.
Because you will lose people purely at the base of that sentence.
Yep.
Flexible working options. I still don't know where I stand on this, if I'm honest. So this talks about offering more flexible arrangements like remote work, flexi time, compressed in working weeks to accommodate Gen Z's desire for work-life balance and autonomy.
I think this is where those earn your stripes come into play, because it's when you're learning, when you're training, when you're picking up the role, you need to be in and around it, and you can't. You can, but not to the same level of just being in and around the office and walking up to someone's desk and saying, "Can you talk me through this?" rather than jumping on a Teams or, "Oh, can you share screen?" or, "We're going to do some classroom-based learning." I think once, and again with Gen Z, we're kind of talking about trainees, right? But for example, I've been doing. Hopefully, I'm not a trainee anymore. I've been here for like 5
You'd
years.
like to think
right?
not, mate. Christ.
Yeah, 5 years.
5
Hopefully,
years.
I'll take the stabilisers off soon. But I'd like to think that there's trust for me to say, right, I'm going to work from home because I've got a load of deliveries coming, or I need to be at home with my pet mouse that I've been keeping a secret.
You never know.
Or whatever it may be. I think it's nice to have the option, but I agree while you're new and while you're still kind of learning the ropes, definitely need to be on site.
I tell you why. Also, there's another part to it in my mind.
Flexi working's interesting as well.
Yeah.
Flexible hours.
Okay. So I think with this, it goes hand in hand in my mind. It's got to go with the function that you're recruiting for, or whatever role you're in.
Yeah.
So I think actually you can offer all those things, because let's face it, we've gone down a road recently where, and actually we haven't really cracked this yet. If you're an organisation, is that why do you need a room full of full-time employees? First of all, why do you need that? Because if you have a room full of full-time employees, all you're doing is creating management and hierarchy in its general sense of things, right? You are, because you get to enough people, you have to have managers to manage them, and you've got to do this and da-da-da-da. So why have them full-time? Why not mitigate them? Why think about it and go, well, do I need them 5 days a week? What if I could outsource it? What if I could use a consultant? What if I can offer someone all the flexibility and working arrangements they want as a Gen Z or whatever generation you're from, but that function requires this kind of output and this responsibility? And I think that's the way to almost engineer it, and then not to put people in positions where you say, yeah, you can have flexible working arrangements, but you've got to be here 5 days a week. So it's probably going down to the role and
I think a big portion of it is down to the position and the function and the outcome.
Yeah, you can be totally real with that, can't you? Because you can say to, like, and again, it doesn't necessarily just be for Gen Z, but if you're doing it purely for Gen Z, say, look, if you want this type of position, we can offer this type of flexibility and responsibility aligned with it. I'd struggle, and I'd love someone to challenge me on it, and how you would ask a Gen anything, come into a brand new sales job they've never done before, and then work flexibly and remote without, and everyone else being in the office in like our environment. I'd love to actually have someone say, this is how you do it.
Yeah, I can't see a way in which you can get the same output.
Don't get it.
I don't. But then for roles where it's, say, very analytical.
Yeah,
if you're like
100%.
If you're like an analyst, where all your job is to do is to analyse the numbers, produce reports.
Perhaps they've got mice because they're very analytical and I want to see what's going on.
Yeah, putting them in mazes.
Follow
the cheese sort of stuff. Yeah. But yeah, if it's something like that where maybe you can be a little bit more classroom based, we're not the most. I'm sure if you said to us as a business, right, put the phones away, all you're going to be doing is analysing financial reports.
God, we'll kill each other in about half an hour.
Yeah, there'd be a few people looking at screens, kind of working out a lot of buffering. A lot of buffering. But maybe if that's something that you can teach in a classroom, where you don't necessarily need to be so prevalent in the office, you don't need to absorb it as much.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something where you can have,
I think you got our offer either way.
If you're delivering a project, and you say, look, as long as this project's delivered by 5 p.m. on Friday.
Yeah.
What you do Monday to Thursday, as long as I get it delivered by Friday, is not really relevant. If you want to sit on the beach, but I get it, and it's the quality we expect. That's the main thing, is that quality.
Yeah, I think it is. I think if you're in a delivery focused position, 100%. I think if you can do it, and you do it well, and you can still collaborate and work and deliver, and what we're offering in terms of flexibility is not hindering that, and you're not going to give me a load of bollocks behind it.
Yeah.
Then I think that works. So yes, I think you got to consider.
Comes with trust as well, though, right?
Of course it is. I think that's the other part of it. Is a lot of trust
there. If I trust you to do the work and it gets delivered on time to the quality that we expect.
But then you can't. Do you know what? I think
if you're a night person, you say, do you know what?
Fine. But I think again, you could do that. Like if you've got someone that works really well at night, like do we need to have like contracted hours 9 to 5? Can it not just be working hours of X a week?
Yeah.
25, 30, 40 hours a week, whatever it is, and go, they are your contracted hours. How you fill that and how you deliver it is up to you. You're an adult, right?
Yeah.
You put your leg
start
on.
at 12 and finish at 12.
As long as it's done. Then you could bolt it in to have like core hours or whatever. But I think the idea
to be
is...
fair, a lot of clients have got that. Where they say our core hours are like 11 till 3.
Yeah, we've
like
actually,
11 till 2.
Well, technically speaking, we have that now. I think you're on an old contract, but a lot of the new...
I'm definitely on an old contract.
Yeah, you definitely are. But a lot of the new lot now have got contracts Monday to Friday, 40 hours, I think it is. And that's it. It doesn't actually say 9 till 6 or anything. They just what we just say.
Yeah.
Because we have obviously US law, we take calls outside of hours. What's the point saying, here's your limitations on your work? Why not just go, well, if you need to go to a dentist, you need to do this, just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah, and it's interesting you said that, actually, just in regards to that flexibility. we're actually quite good at it anyway. In a sense of, say, if I say, look, I need to go get my car done at 11, I'll just work through lunch, or I'll make it up another
Just get
time.
it done.
Just get it done. I'll work out.
That works for us, doesn't it? I
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
seems to be quite good.
But yeah,
We've got a few other to get through here. So diversity, inclusion. I mean, this one for me is probably, it's got to be so close to the top. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think we live in such a world now. It's gone well past just women's rights and that kind of thing. We have all sorts of different
yeah,
identities, which we don't even have to go down. But
yeah,
we have that to consider, how that's inclusive, how having, a workforce of different minds encourages performance. I think you got to embrace that.
Yeah,
I don't think
definitely.
obviously variants of it, right? You don't have to be have a great big banner about how amazing you're at DNI,
Yeah.
but at least start the journey. So what are you doing?
Yeah, and be inquisitive about it as well, and
Yeah, be curious.
be curious and actually encourage it and embrace it. Not, I think that DNI is, for me, you can't do it for the sake of it, because it comes across so terribly when you see, like we said earlier, just those stock images,
No,
and it's
awful.
like you have to live and breathe it and actually, bring different people into the business.
I think you said it
and
right.
encourage it.
Just be curious about it.
Mm.
Just understand where those points of view. It's not to say they're right or wrong and different.
No,
and
don't
what
be
you
afraid
ever
to
think
ask
about
questions.
it. Yeah, whatever you think about it is indifferent. It's just be curious, understand different points of view. And I think if you can get your mind around that part of it, that's the starting block to think. If you want to kind of go down, right, we want to have this D&I kind of thing, bed that in from day one. What does that need to look like? It doesn't need to be a manifesto of 60 pages.
No.
It could just start with, just be fucking kind to people.
Yeah.
Why don't we start there? How can we be good to everyone that walks through this door?
Mm.
I think I just cracked it. That is really it, isn't it? Like, isn't that the whole point? Anyway.
Yeah.
Invest in ESG, environmental, sustainable, and corporate governance.
Corporate governance.
I've never heard of it called ESG. I've heard of like CSR, corporate social responsibility,
Yeah.
but not ESG. But I like that because, again, like the whole sustainability of things is really big. And again, it doesn't necessarily mean you've got to have some great big thing on it. And we haven't done it more recently, but, thinking about the use of paper, like we do the bit with Surface Against Sewage. We haven't done a beach clean for a while, but just think about the physical things you physically can do to make a difference. That's got to be a good place to start there.
Definitely. And even with that, the ethical side of things as well. It's a massive one in terms of what the business, a lot of Gen Z saying, what do the business do?
Yeah.
If they're, in the oil industry, for example, is a lot.
We're really sustainable.
Yeah. How sustainable actually are you just because you plant a few trees?
Yeah, exactly. So actually, on this one, there is something that I learnt about, I think it was early this year, around, so you have these things called unicorn companies.
Mm-hmm.
So unicorn company is very much like very well funded, huge amounts of growth, very profitable, and that's kind of where a lot of startups want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So that is this new kind of movement called zebra companies. Have you heard about this?
No.
So zebra companies are the same sort of trail of thought, but they have two bottom lines. It's not just about profit, but it's about what you leave behind in terms of sustainability. So a zebra company is very focused on high growth and being successful and the rest of it, but they also have another stream which is very focused about sustainability and how that company is grown and what then that leaves behind. And I know we've kind of talked about this before in the past, and it's just kind of grown legs, but I think companies will be asked a lot more, and now we're starting to see it, about what do you actually do from an operations perspective around sustainability. How does what you're doing, what does that leave behind, and how do you offset that? That is not just planting a tree in Zimbabwe because some guy got in touch with you. Like I've definitely had that with some guys literally messaging, hey, you can offset everything by planting a tree for $1 a month. You kind of go, that doesn't really feel very sustainable.
No.
Like
you get the certificate. But are you actually believing in it?
You're just throwing money at it, right?
Yeah.
And I know sometimes that might be an answer that you're supporting a different whatever, but it can be very operational. It could just be a thing where we're saying, right, we're only using recycled material. We're going to have lots of different bins, have different type of waste or whatnot, or we're just going to do a charity day once a month, once a quarter, whatever, and we're going to go and tidy up the local community. Start there, just something.
It doesn't need to be grand. It doesn't need to be huge
have to
scale. It's just making strides, and again, just being open-minded.
Yeah, and also when you think about it, if everyone did that, and if everybody did that, you wouldn't have to worry about it. We wouldn't have to worry about it as a populace of people. But then that's a whole different thing about what you're consuming, and that goes down to food and all the rest of it, and how you get to work, and that's a lot bigger conversation. But I think the idea is that there are perks, there's benefits, there's even like, you know, electric cars. I know it's a bit, is it really sustainable, is it really whatever, but there are lots of good schemes where for companies to actually say, do you know what, you got the electric car scheme for employees, so you trade in your petrol or diesel car and you can have like a benefit where we can get you electric car and it comes off gross off your pay. Brilliant. Gets it influences like dirty kind of vehicles to get off the road with less dirty ones.
Cycle to work scheme.
Cycle
as
to
well.
work, you know.
Getting there for years.
Yeah, it's been there, but then use it. But then I hate it when people go, cycle to work, but we live out in the bloody country. And it's like, well, what the hell's the point in that? Yeah. Unless you get some real enthusiasts. Yeah. You know, it's not really. So again, think about that. So invest in ESG, I think in total is a really good one. Provide L&D opportunities. Okay, so this one they talked about more on the job training though, wasn't it? It wasn't more like classroom stuff. It's more like real life scenario stuff, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it has to be in the workplace. It's difficult to learn the role in a classroom. You have to live and breathe it, no matter what you're doing. Yeah,
I think theoretically is one thing. I think learning it and running through the scenarios is life, right? Just definitely. Learning.
And I think that I think that comes with the age group as well. You know, 25 below, really. So I guess it's 18, 17 apprentices coming through. Right, you're in that learning. You're learning throughout your whole career, but definitely in those early days, you're learning the ropes, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think so. I think I was never academically clever. Surprise. All my learning was definitely done on the job. I made so many wicked mistakes. Like, it was really good ones, crackers. Like, you know, and I learned a lot through just that. But also just being around more experienced people. I think that was a huge one for me.
That mentoring side, to kind of just having someone more experienced to kind of take you under their wing and kind of show you the ropes. And
even if it's just to kind of like keep you on the path. You can still stray, you can still find your way, but just kind of like
have the barriers.
And they're very loose, right? And they kind of say, this is kind of how I've done it, and this is what to look out for. Here's the road bumps, here's the challenges, whatnot. And then encourage. But the mentor piece, I think, is good. And I think this, again, if you know how big or small you think you are, you can be a mentor to someone, because you only know what you know. You don't know what the other person knows yet. And I think that's always been quite a profound thing. Like when you're training someone, if you actually give that the time it deserves, you will free your time up. There's still this contention around training people. I still can't get my head around fully. And I get it, we're busy people. But if you just give it that bit of time up front, that will pay dividends over and over again. And really, when you all think about it, if you're a good leader, you should almost try and make yourself redundant. That's the whole point, is that that's a good barometer on if you're successful as a leader. Am I bored? If I almost got to the point where the whole ship is moving and I'm just literally kind of keeping tabs on it, you know, and I'm doing my thing. I think that's get your head around that one. It won't be an overnight thing, but I think if you kind of start with that idea when you're attracting these people, again, if you're doing it for Gen Z, they've got all the technology at their fingertips. They can get all the information at a click of a button. They can chat GPT. They can throw it into a good presentation and deliver it. You teach them that in a concise way in a commercial setting. That's unstoppable. So I think, it's a really good one to think about.
Definitely.
This is interesting. So foster and promote collaboration and teamwork. So whilst we're offering this flexible working from home, remote, I suppose this is thinking about how can you still keep people engaged and working with individuals in a team setting. So you might be working remotely, but you're still working on projects with other human beings and interaction.
You're not siloed.
And that's got to kind of go into more D&I as well, right? Because you're collaborating, you're thinking about other points of view, and you're just using that as a think tank all the time. So rather than leaving people on an island, I'd completely agree with that. I think giving people an environment, go, right, you're going to work on this, responsible for whatever, but you're in cohort collaboration with these other individuals. They're there to help you. Don't be precious about it. Don't be proud about it. Ask as many questions as you possibly can and learn some shit. Yeah, definitely. I think that's...
You can't just have, let's say a team of 20 people all pulling in different directions. If they're all pulling in the same direction, you're going to get to that end goal a lot quicker. Yeah, and that's where the leadership needs to come in to kind of make sure that everyone is aligned and everyone is bringing something to the table and it's all going in the right way. And I think that's where that balance is, like you said, between that working from home and that on-site piece. You can definitely kind of blend the two, but it's just about how you bring people together. And it doesn't have to be, collaboration and teamwork doesn't just have to be in the office, you sit next to someone and, you work on the same project.
It doesn't have to be working, does it?
No, social.
Yeah.
Like the social side of things is so important as well.
I think there's a lot of collaboration team when it comes outside the office, really. And if it's that kind of way day or just getting together for lunch, going for a wander, let's face it, a lot of what we do is going down the pub and that kind of stuff. But
it's what we did in Spain, really. That was a proper, it was there for a laugh and, to celebrate some of the success you've had. But we did things together. We still had to,
you're not just going to go, right, see you later, lads, I'll see you in a couple of days.
So I think that's always good. I like this one. Encourage transparency and authenticity.
Massive one.
Yeah,
I think that's the biggest reason why people actually leave jobs. Is because they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
It might be there. It might not be there.
Well, it might just be not communicated very well. I think a lot of companies definitely struggle with this. But if you've got if you can create a culture where there is no man behind a curtain, there's no kind of ulterior motive. It's like we are genuinely doing this for this reason. And if you've been on the journey with us, then great. And I think that's the other thing when you think about hiring new generation of individuals, you do not have to cater to all of them or anyone. You don't want to do that. You
can't cater to everyone.
No, and why should you?
No.
You want to cast that net wide, and I get that, fine. But draw the line somewhere and go, this is our values, this is what we're doing, and this is the journey we're taking, and we're going to be as inclusive and opportunistic as we possibly can, but this is what we are doing. Do you like it?
Be real as well.
Yeah, be real. Do you like it? Do you not? It's cool if you don't. There'll be a load of people there is, and the ones that are, I'll get you on that journey with me. And I think that's being authentic.
Yeah, and not you're not going to be for everyone.
And that's cool as well.
Yeah, and it's probably the best answer rather than trying to be something you're not.
That's even worse. Because I tell you what, if you started doing that, you're then jeopardizing the whole purpose of your business in my mind from a value perspective. Because the only reason why you would do that and feel comfortable with it is because you're knocking your value somewhere. I think it might be because it's a quick fix. It might be because that person you're hiring has got the best skill set, but he's a shit manager or something like that. That's usually one I see, where people kind of put down their standards because they've got a hard job. They feel they can't fill it, so they go, "Oh well, you will do, and we'll make it work." And guess what happens every time? There's a problem. Do you know why? Because you didn't fucking listen in the first place to yourself. It's not even to others, it's yourself. Yeah. So I think being transparent and authentic is really good. And actually, last one, you take it away.
Yeah, promoting purpose-driven work. That's the most important one for me.
It's really good. What are
you actually doing it for?
Yeah, what's your why?
Yeah.
And actually, again, it's the same sort of difference.
Gen Z won't settle for that dead-end job.
Nah.
I hate using the term. I think it's really...
dead-end job.
Yeah, it's really demeaning. But I think, Gen Z won't settle for that. They need to know that there's something more.
Definitely. I think so, yeah. I think work should always have purpose. Otherwise, why bother?
Yeah. And as well, what that purpose is to you. It doesn't have to be because I want to be a CEO one day. If you say, look, I'm Gen Z, I'm 18, I want to go on holiday with my mates, I need to save up for a year and then burn it. Fine, that's your purpose. And I think a lot of people will say, do you know what, I've got a lot of time for that.
Yeah.
I've got if someone walked through the door or knocked on the buzzer and said, I'm just finished school, I just want to do something for a year, earn decent-ish money, and then I'm going to go away for 3 months.
Why not?
You probably won't hear from me after that. Fine.
Why not? Yeah.
But at least you're honest. You're not saying, I want something long term and then...
Yeah. But you say, okay, fine, with the work you're doing and what we're working on will contribute to that because of X, Y, and Z. I think that's the key in it. So whatever your motivation is whatever. If that's just going with your mates and getting absolutely smashed or saving for retirement or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But give the people some sort of purpose and reason why they're doing it, rather than asking me to photocopy a bloody encyclopedia just because it gave me something to do.
Yeah. Because
it doesn't instill any sort of creativity, enthusiasm, inspiration of anything.
No.
I still can't remember the blood name of that company.
Yeah. We're coming. We will find it and we will name and shame.
So you know what, a lot of key takeaways, and I know we kind of said already, so I kind of started with like not really sure about this in terms of where this is actually going and the technology and the purpose and the expectation and whatnot. But actually, I think beneath all that, there is a lot of good things that the new generation are thinking about and are putting into action.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing is, as much as people can bash them, they are going to be the next generation of workforce.
Whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
So you might as well learn to embrace it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And take the positives and the negatives, because again, everyone's different. The negatives that go along with that, how can you kind of coach people and mentor people and guide people to kind of move away from that?
Yeah.
So
And don't think, do you know what, I think the one thing about that whole piece is not to think that your experience and, your experiences, what am I trying to say? Don't ever think that the new generation have to go through the same experience as you did to get a better or the same result. Yeah. I think that is it.
That is absolutely
it. It's not to think about, well, this is the only way. That was one way that a whole generation of people did it. Take all the positives from it. Think about where we're actually at within the ecosystem. Think about what people want and blend it, and then evolve it, and then go again. And then, like you said, transfer that knowledge. So when your alpha babies are all grown up and you're having the same sort of problem I'm having, you can go again and again and again. And what's the next one going to be? Alpha, we've gone Z to A.
Beta.
We go B. I don't think they were called betas, were they? Beta.
Could be up to alpha.
Alpha,
Yeah.
beta.
What else?
Don't know, mate.
Brian's.
What else rhymes?
Brian's. No,
Brian?
Brian's. Alphas and Brian's.
Alphas and Brian's. Oh,
Whole generation of Brian's.
wow. What's the next one we're doing?
It's combating quiet quitting with
Oh,
loud
wow.
retention.
Combat quiet quitting with loud retention. Love that. Oh,
Strong.
that would be a good one.
Strap in.
Strap in for.
There's going to be some
episode 8.
opinions on that one.
Yeah.
I've got some very strong opinions about that. Behind the curtain.
Fine. Well, look, I really enjoyed that one, mate. I thought it was actually a really good
Yeah.
session. I think the girls were probably cursing us because that was like an hour and a half of content.
Yeah, flowed.
They were dead.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. Good. A lot of nods. Nice one, mate.
Nice
Thanks
one.
very much.
Wicked.
Done and done.